Hello, hello, hello. Welcome, everybody. Welcome to the show. You are watching Monk BC battling communism. We are battling communism just like we do every single Tuesday and Thursday. We were not able to go live this Tuesday because we had a special event at Trump International. For the first time since the shutdowns, we have been able to hold our MAGA meetups at Trump International. And I took the opportunity to meet with some patriots and to ensure that we got a chance to talk about these important issues that are going on here in DC. How's it going, Jeanette? Tammy, welcome everybody to the show. Please click share. As you know, you are watching me here on TECN. Welcome, you guys. TECNTV.com. That's where you can always catch me. If Facebook, for some reason, I don't know, maybe they don't like me, maybe I speak the truth, decides to shut me down. So you can always catch me over there on TECN. Thank you guys for tuning in. Hello, Lynn. Welcome, welcome. All right, so I want to catch everybody up on what's going on in DC, both the things that aren't going on in DC, how's it going, Mary, and the things that are going on in DC. And I want to start this episode by saying, please, how's it? Good evening, Becky. Please do not just read things on the internet and think they're happening just because someone has shared a post with you about stuff happening. I think everybody needs to kind of take what we see on the internet with a grain of salt. It's important we start to do that again because we're getting a little loosey-goosey with accepting facts, particularly when it comes to Washington, D.C. and what may be going on or not going on behind the scenes in the nation's capital. Now, here's what I can tell you from the recent email you got telling you that everything has been shut down in D.C. Here's what I can tell you about that very clearly. Number one, let's talk about the FBI building because it's the one that makes everybody the most. I saw pictures of the FBI building boarded up. Yes, you did. The FBI building is undergoing renovations. It is my understanding from local people who work in the area, in the industry, okay, that renovation of that building got way too expensive. So they're planning to move that building. How's it going, Pam? So it's boarded up because they're changing stuff that's going on now. That is the official story. Is that entirely the complete nature of what's happening? I do not know. But there is an official story. The Cherry Blossom Festival, that's been shut down for 2 years. You guys, Mayor Muriel Bowser has not let us have the Cherry Blossom Festival since COVID. Because being outside, I can't even with this woman, being outside near the cherry blossoms will kill grandma. So we haven't had the cherry blossoms. Museums, additionally, have been shut down. It is only until recently that we have begun to loosen up the COVID protocols. In fact, just last week, were we able to stand at the bar in a private, in an event. Bar isn't even entirely just open to the public. So we are not that unshut down. We're still pretty shut down. We still have a lot of stuff going on in regards to shutdowns, particularly, I know, right? The cherry blossoms land. So stupid. Particularly when it comes to museums and other places where large groups of people might congregate, we still got a lot of those issues. So when you're saying all these things are shut down, the museums are shut down, et cetera, yeah, have been, will continue to be, in part because there isn't the tourism traffic right now to justify the financial reopening and staffing of these museums. So that's a real problem here. We don't have a lot of, we're just barely starting to get tourism back in the district from COVID shutdowns after we have reopened some of our shutdown protocols. Yeah, Shuri, I have seen no military moving in. And trust me, we've had a lot of military in DC over the past year. A lot, L-O-T, lot of military in the past year. That's another thing we're not seeing here. And I know they're reporting it. I don't know where they're reporting it. Maybe you happen to be somewhere at a military base. You know there are several military bases in and around Washington, D.C. So military is always moving in DC. In fact, you don't have to move a lot of military in. If you needed the Marines, they're here. How's it going, Hope? How's it going, Pam? How's it going, Barbara? If you needed the Marines, Carol, good to see you. If you needed the Marines, we'd already have Marines. Okay, we have military bases. So we would be moving in National Guard if there was an extreme situation, but we've just had a bunch of National Guard here and they just went home. Now the cage is still here. That's the other thing. I was like, oh, the Capitol's closed. Well, the Capitol's been closed. It's not been opened since January 6th. That was the last time anybody opened the door and let anybody in who wasn't working for Congress. Some of the people they let in that day, I think, probably were working for Congress. Seeing as the FBI seems to be going after patriots and Trump supporters, as is the whim of Congress. And certainly we are starting to find out that there are FBI actors infiltrated in the crowd on that day and in the preparation. No, White House is not open. Now, the White House is not only not open, but it's a little weird in that it does have some additional wooden construction barricade. I guess it's kind of to block the view. There's some areas over there that are being worked on. And now here's the other thing that's weird. The street, Black Lives Matter, has had some underground electrical work done, which required paving over Black Lives Matter, yay, and then repainting Black Lives Matter. I thought that was particularly egregious because Mayor Muriel Bowser does not believe that Black Lives Matter. I'm going to say that again. Look right in both cameras. Muriel Bowser, the mayor of DC, does not care about Black lives. So I don't know why she keeps painting it on the street. It's pissing me off, actually, because she doesn't give a crap. And we're going to talk about that. Exactly what I mean, with no exaggeration, just a little bit later in the show. So is the White House being used normally? No, it's weird. It's a little bit weird. Everyone who is used to the White House says it's wonky. It's a wonky situation over there. It's kind of not being used in the active way that it usually is. It's a little weird. I can't explain it. They had the Rose Garden boarded off for a while. It's just strange stuff going on over there, but it's not. You can't really tell what it is or not what it is. So, yeah, exactly. That's what I'm talking about, Tammy. That's what I'm talking about. Now, on top of that, the flooding that goes on in DC, we're in a tidal basin. So when we get some rain, when we get a good amount of rain, and we get, during a up high tide, the water is going to come up over the tidal basin, get in the streets a little bit, make a little mess, fill up the sewers a little bit. So again, we're not flooded. DC is built on hills. Lots of hills. What do they call it? Capitol Hill. They don't call it that for no reason. It's on a giant hill. Walk up it one time. Walk from the Washington Monument to the Capitol building and see if you don't understand the term Capitol Hill when you're done getting to the top of the hill, winded because you had to climb the hill. Now, does that mean that there aren't underground tunnels and there hasn't been anything going on? No, I think it's very strange. Some of the things that have been going on, the digging has been on. We had a whole period of time where it was all boomy going on. Here was weird sounds coming. The electrical flickering we've seen both in the lights on the National Mall, in my own house, in street lights around this. I mean, it just is weird. There's weird stuff happening. It can't be clarified. And I think y'all should be careful freaking out because one, you are being told these things, but in this context that might not be accurate. And two, it's making you distracted from the things that are actually going on. And some of them great things, some of them very important things, and some of them very likely to move the ball forward in a very profound way as we start to see Arizona go the way of the audits and continue to finish counting. They've finished the counting. We're getting ready to get the results revealed over the next few days. It's going to be very crazy. Sonia, I'm glad you mentioned the flag. No, I don't think there's no black flag. The flag over the White House goes up and down. It is raised and lowered. It's not always over the White House. It is often over the White House. Did they put up some other temporary POW flag? I don't think so. I didn't read it in the news. That's the other thing. If the flag actually changed, okay, there's somebody who's going to tell you about it, why it did that. All right. They don't just change the flag. With half mast or half staff, any of these changes, they will tell you. If it's just down or you don't see it, less of a freak out because it happens a lot. Just like the thing with the lights. Everyone's like, oh, the White House lights are off at 11 o'clock. They're always off at 11 o'clock. They turn off the lights. We're not wasting electricity by just shining the lights on the front of the White House all the time. So there's nothing going on there. That doesn't mean there aren't things going on, but some of the things you guys are being told are crazy or normal. So you have to do a little bit of research and a little bit of talking to people who know what's to be expected. So yeah, there's a lot of old gossip news going on there. Here's the thing. There's a lot of excitement stuff going on. Okay. The audits are going to reinvigorate this movement like we've never seen. There's real problems for the left because of these audits, criminal charges. Many House and Senate seats will be up for legal rectification. It's gonna be fun. It's gonna be a glorious, juicy, glorious, fun time for everyone. And so the left is not going to be happy about that. They're not happy about it now. I'm trying to get this to balance out here. Excuse me. There we go. They're not happy about it now. They're not going to get more happy about it. What they need to do is try to make sure they can distract us. And in one way they want to distract us is they want to push this narrative of the insurrection. We're finding out real truths about the insurrection. They're very upset and very concerned about that. So they're continuing to push this idea further that there was, in fact, an insurrection. They're going to try to continue to put that pressure and potentially try to create new false flags. Now, there's some great video I watched today that's been around, but I've only seen it for the first time today, of a gentleman who is pointing out in the January 6th footage two individuals who are clearly trying to incite the crowd to go in and break things. And in fact, the crowd is looking at them like they're insane, as we should, and many people did. So the idea that the FBI was involved. Tucker Carlson has come out with this information. They've been asking about this on the floor of Congress. There are people who have been trying to find out what has really been going on and get this information revealed both within Congress and outside of Congress for a little while now. We're starting to get a little bit more attention on that. But the reality is they need to double down on the fact that they got all these people in jail and they're using this as a mechanism to suppress our activity. So they're going to get worse before it clears, before the data comes out, before they release the fact that they have been implicated completely in the January 6th insurrection, before they accept that, before the left tolerates it. They're going to double down on everything they're saying. And that's lots of what you're seeing in the media right now. I know it's very frustrating to people, especially when you see the expose that Tucker Carlson has done. When you see some of the videos, like Sherry says, the police standing back and doing nothing, in fact, inviting people in. You can see again and again the activities that clearly make it obvious that this was set up by someone. Very likely, now we're finding out very concernedly that it was the FBI themselves, who then are now charged with going after individuals who they believe are insurrectionists, many of which are being held currently in DC detention center and are not on minor charges for extended periods of time, not being allowed the normal process, which is to return home and await their trial. And we've had congressmen talk about that on the floor of Congress as well. Many of these issues we are trying to address. And we're going to talk about what is additionally going on in the DC jail, what's going on with our patriots, what's going on with the inmates, what's going on with the mayor and her policies as we go forward. But what I wanted to say is that we need to be very careful over the next few weeks, over the next month or so, when it comes to things that can happen. Yeah, we're not. They're very upset about the laptop, and I have suspicions we know where it is, but they don't. So, well, I guess we're gonna have to wait and see about that aspect of the investigation. So, the frustration that we're seeing, the frustration we continue to see, is the fact that we have patriots being charged, patriots being tracked, and the FBI continuing to try to infiltrate patriot groups, much as they tried to infiltrate the Proud Boys. They've been kind of out now about how they attempted to do that and claimed effectiveness. Certainly, also, they have attempted to infiltrate other groups as well. The Michigan Gretchen Whitmer kidnapping situation. Also, FBI infiltrators trying to lure unsuspecting or rubish individuals into the trap that was set by the FBI. And yes, Mary, thank you for the transition, because it's so important that we understand what's actually going on, not only to these individuals, but certainly to everyone that is being currently housed in the DC detention facility. So, as many of you who watch this show have followed me know, I've been talking a lot about what has been going on in the DC detention facility. And the reason I've been doing that is there is egregious human rights violations going on, both through the regular general population that is there and these political prisoners we have from January 6th who are receiving even more egregious treatment and, in fact, abuse and torture at the hands of correctional officers under the watch of Mayor Muriel Bowser. That's what's happening. So let's talk about how I know that, where that information has come from. So on April 19th, the Washington Post, not a right-wing rag in any way, obviously very left. However, they wrote an article talking about the egregious conditions we had in the DC jail. I've shared this article on my page. I will share it again. I will continue to share this article. We've shared it with folks from Congress and all sorts of influencers and media people, podcasters. We're getting the information out there as best as we can. This is what the policy has been throughout 2020. As of April 19th, 2021, for 400 days, so more than a year, for over 400 days from the beginning of COVID shutdowns, all of the inmates in DC Detention Center, where they are awaiting trial, we do not hold our convictees here in DC Detention. We house them outside of the district. We cannot hold our own prisoners. It's part of the Home Rule Act. It's part of the process of being the district and not a state. So these are, by and large, predominantly, completely individuals awaiting trial. How's it going, Kimmy? Awaiting trial. So that's so important to understand. So for a year, since the beginning of COVID shutdowns, thank you, Monica, these individuals were in solitary confinement or locked in their cell, in cell lockdown, in your cell with your one cellmate or alone for 23 hours a day. 23 hours a day, they were locked in solitary confinement or alone with their cellmates. No access to outside whatsoever for over a year. No access to the ability to trim your fingernails or toenails, shave, cut your hair. What do you mean, Suzanne? They did not have access to the barber. Well, couldn't they do it themselves? No, prisoners are not allowed scissors, nail clippers, nail files. None of this is stuff that they are allowed to use. They were offered, this is how crazy it is. I'm not kidding you. They were offered chemical hair remover as an alternative. They were offered Nair to get their facial hair off. That is what they offered the prisoners for over a year. Yeah, it's not our America. It's insane. It's absolutely insane. They were not allowed library services. No books. While you're locked in your cell 23 hours a day, we're not allowed library services. You're not allowed books. You don't have any of these things. Maybe newspapers. I think they did get them some newspapers. Or if your family sent you books, you could get those. They were not allowed visitation in any way. No visitation from your lawyer. No in-person visitation with your family. Phone call, video calls. These are the only things allowed. During that hour, here's something you have to understand. This is so egregious when I got my head around how bad what I'm about to tell you is. That hour of time that they left them out of the cell, they were required to shower, conduct any other grooming or necessary business that needed to occur outside of the cell. All of it had to be done in that hour. That hour was scheduled at whatever time the prison decided, 24 hours a day. Yeah. They would wake up prisoners 3, 4, 5 o'clock in the morning, 2 a.m., midnight, literally at all hours of the night. And you got dragged out of bed in the middle of the night to take your shower time or your out of cell time for over a year. Individuals who normally would have been waiting there for a short period of time because of the slow process going on in the courts due to COVID, many times taking 3, 4, 5, 10 times longer than it usually takes. So individuals have been waiting and waiting and waiting, even to plead guilty, waiting. So, yes, even POWs are treated better. Even terrorists are treated better. Even people at Gitmo are treated better than what we're doing to our jail inmates now. Now, this is the baseline, y'all. This is the baseline. It gets worse from baseline. And I am probably not completely aware of the extent of what those shutdown measures entailed. That's just a smattering of information that we were able to get through the Washington Post article. Now, well, what do you do when something is a big problem in D.C.? Well, Congress is our solution. Congress is our governor. Congress is who we look to for oversight. So bless his heart, Congressman James Comer of Kentucky, literally bless his heart, the ranking Republican on the House Oversight Committee. Yeah, we're going to talk about that in a second, Tracy. On the House Oversight Committee, wrote a letter to Muriel Bowser on April 19th when the article came out, demanding that she address these egregious violations, which, as Tracy said, so when they get out, they'll be really much. Yes, there have been psychological episodes. There has been an increase of suicide watch in the detention center. There has been an increase of mental health issues and self-harm concerns. It's gotten bad for the people. Their lawyers were crying, screaming, please, you can't be treating our people like this. Lawyers from inmates who are arrested locally and lawyers from inmates who are arrested in federal custody. Understand, if you are arrested for a crime in D.C., you go to the D.C. Detention Center, which is a federal facility. We're a federal district. So you go to a federal facility. We have an agreement with the federal government. We house both federal arrestees, arrested by Park Police, Capitol Police, etc., FBI, etc., and individuals arrested by MPD, Metropolitan Police Department. So you got very upset, angry people who have not been treated well. Guess what? The mayor did not respond to Congress. She didn't respond. She ghosted them. She ignored the letter completely. She didn't, however, ignore the Washington Post. She did change her policy. Everyone's like, oh, good, you changed your policy. Oh, no. Oh, no, not good how she changed her policy. So all of those conditions I mentioned to you, the shutdown conditions, the lockdown conditions, no access to all these facilities, no outdoor, those changed. They are allowing some outdoor time, some access to these basic human facilities to individuals who have been vaccinated. Let me repeat what I just said. You can get out of 23 hours a day lockdown, waking you up in the middle of the night to take your shower, not talk to your family, not talk to your friends, not talk to your attorney, no access to basic facilities, including the out of doors. Okay. If you take this experimental drug that may kill you, and we don't know what it will do. They're testing the vaccine on prisoners, and they're using the threat of solitary confinement to do that. Yeah. So when you sit there and you watch the commercials that say, get the vaccine, you're like, I am so glad. I'm so glad I don't have to get the vax. I don't have to make that decision. Oh, you tempt me with a donut. All right, well, how strong would you be able to stand against that vaccination if what they tempted you with was the ability to leave 4 walls of white, 8 feet by 8 feet or 10 by 10 for 23 hours a day, every single day of your life until you went to court. And then maybe the jail you went to had equal shutdowns and protocols, because it's not just been DC that have implemented these protocols. So that's not a choice. You're right, Tracy. It is a horrible choice to make. It is a horrible decision to put people in, and it is illegal. It is criminal. It is a violation of the Nuremberg codes, where you are not allowed to test experimental medications on people through the use of force. And as Loretta says, her own father or brother-in-law died 2 weeks after getting the jab. It's very, very, very dangerous to just be testing this drug on people. On top of that, to test it on individuals who have no liberty and have very little choice to be made. And that is the base. That's the beginning. Okay, that's everybody. That's general population. That's how Muriel Bowser is treating everyone to start. Now, let's talk about what's happening to our January 6th patriots. Let's talk about what's happening to them, because these individuals are being treated in an even more egregious situation on top of what I've just explained to you their conditions are in the DC detention facility. So these federal inmates held on January 6th are held in a separate floor block, if you will, cell block, than general population currently. And I say currently because there is grave concern that they will be released into general population. If these shutdowns start to open up, it could put them in a very dangerous situation. And frankly, even a dangerous situation, showering, engaging in the general activities that are necessary, even in that short period of time where you're allowed to go out and do those things. So you're showering with other inmates who aren't going to like that you're white Trump supporter, and certainly that has a grave risk as well. And it is not unheard of in correctional facilities, and in fact in DC correctional facilities, for correctional officers to look the other way while inmates eke out justice. So there is grave concern. There is grave concern for these individuals. Now, I am to understand there are dozens, possibly more than 500 individuals there being held in the DC detention center. They are being held likely. We have two factions of correctional officers. One is a more privatized organization that still works by contract under DC, and the other are individuals, correctional officers hired by the city themselves. But they both operate under the same policies. The private contractor having even less scrutiny. And here's where the situation has occurred with our DC Patriots. So when they were arrested on January 6th, so the few weeks shortly after that, and brought to DC or in DC, taken into custody here and put into DC detention center, they were put into a situation where they were already in strict COVID lockdowns and were kept in solitary confinement 23 hours a day, if not 24 hours a day. These individuals, however, were treated even more egregiously, being exposed to beatings, individuals who were zip-tied and beaten, injured by correctional officers who have been violent, threats, intimidation, insults, sleep deprivation tactics. They sing God bless America, and they get in trouble for that. They've been punished in every way possible, and in many ways unimaginable. They are not allowed to see their lawyers without constant multiple guards. They're treated like terrorists. Even on video and phone calls, they are on constant watch. The constant watch. They are being abused. And the reason they have been able to abuse them so effectively since January, February, March, April, May, we're in June, folks. We're in June. Is that because for most of that time, up until the middle of April, we weren't even paying attention to the fact that everyone was being abused in that facility. It is only because the Washington Post had the guts or the gall or the anger at Muriel Bowser, I don't know what it was, to speak out on this issue, that we started to understand what was actually happening. And now we have individuals who are starting to talk about the issue and address the issue of our patriots and what is going on in the correctional facility, the detention center there. It's not a correctional facility, sorry, it's a detention center here in DC in general. It is the COVID protocols that created cover. Now, there's been a lot of folks that have started to talk about our patriots, and there has been a lot of talk about pushing Merrick Garland, pushing the DOJ to release them from their charges, to release them from being held until they are able to meet their trial. We don't have a governor, Eloise. We don't have a governor. We're the district. We are the District of Columbia. Congress is our governor. Congress is our governor. And the House Oversight Committee is the first line that should be issuing oversight to the district. And they have issued a letter trying to address, trying to act in an oversight manner. Muriel did not pay attention. That's where we find ourselves. And I'm going to tell you a little bit about what I've been doing, what we've been doing. My dear fellow patriot Isaac Smith and other patriots here in the district have been doing to try to address and get this situation with enough strength in Congress to actually do something about the situation, or enough strength in the leftist media, because as Mary says, it must be horrific conditions for the leftist Washington Post to report about it. That's correct. By the time the Washington Post is talking about negative things that the mayor of DC is doing, they're really, really bad things. Extremely, extremely bad. So we have individuals who are starting to talk about our patriots and talk about having their charges dropped or having their release dates, allowed to have release dates until they await trial. And that is certainly an important angle. I just want everyone to understand, because there's been, because of this nature of the issue, because we have a jail that is literally involved in active human rights abuses overall as their generic policy. And we have political prisoners being abused under federal watch by these DC correctional officers. We have to address this on literally every front possible. So I have patriots who want to talk about the January 6th prisoners and how to get them out. Great. Please do that. They want to talk about getting them attorneys, getting them legal representation, getting them legal funds. Great. That is a great way to help. Please do that. Please keep talking about what's happening to them. But when you're talking about it, make sure that you don't forget that we need to hold Muriel Bowser accountable for what she is doing, which is involving the torture. All right. The conditions in the DC detention center, and I've made this very clear, and I'm going to say it a million times. The conditions in the DC detention center are under Muriel Bowser's watch. It is her policy. It is her COVID protocols. These are her correctional officers. This is her city contract with these officers. Yeah, sure. I know they hate me. They do not want me to tell you what I'm telling you, because they don't like when I talk truth about the Democrats. But this is the truth. Muriel Bowser is the one torturing them. Okay, Merrick Garland has put them in the torture chamber. Muriel Bowser is the one who hired the torturers. Do you understand? And Tracy, I don't know. That's a great question. We don't know how many people have gotten COVID in the jail or not. I don't have reliable numbers on that at all. So I don't even know if these measures were effective in any way. They say they were, but were they? We don't know. We don't know what's happening to our patriots. Barely because of their lawyers do we find out anything, including the violence that is being purported upon them in these cells. And the people who are doing that are the correctional officers Muriel Bowser has hired or contracted. So we have to talk about both sides of the issue, both getting these folks out, but certainly also Muriel Bowser's actions. She can't be allowed to get away with that. First off, even if every single patriot was removed today, she should not be allowed to have done what she did to them. Permanent damage. We have patriots who are permanently damaged, lost eyes, lost the use of an eye. Not to mention psychological damage as well. Separation from their families, financial destitution because they aren't able to get back home and continue their lives while they're awaiting these charges. And yes, Natalie, yes, it's not something that their lawyers have talked about. And I'm sorry. I wish they would, because we need to actually start talking about. Yes, April 19th is when the first story was published. The follow-up talking about the vaccination requirement was published May 13th, I believe. May 13th. So Washington Post, April 19th is the first article. She is a extremely bad mayor. She is egregious and definitely thinks she is above all the laws. So it's important that we make sure that those individuals are vindicated, that the district, I hate to do this to myself, but the district needs to be financially liable for the damages to these individuals that were held here in these egregious conditions. And yes, Natalie, I'm sorry, you mentioned, I hope they're not pushing the vax on them. Well, their attorneys have not talked much about that, but that is the policy right now. That is the policy. The policy is you stay in solitary confinement, you stay in lockdown, or even unless you've gotten the vax. And I'm pretty sure even if you're willing to stay in lockdown, they're still going to try to get you pushed to get the vax. We should be asking these attorneys if that's something that's happening. But I think people are so egregiously concerned that they're getting beat up, assaulted, sexually assaulted, abused. You know, we haven't popped in and said, oh yeah, by the way, are they using them in lab experiments? But the likelihood, 99%. I would put 99%. I would bet. Yeah. That is in fact happening. So, what can be done? What can be done? Here's what's important to understand. And the Republicans are so bad at this. We're so bad at this, and we got to get better at it. And this is a great opportunity to learn to get better at this. We do not operate strategically, politically very effectively. We get all wrapped up into one aspect of something, and we don't hit things on every angle. And that's actually what we need to do. We need patriots who are upset about our people who are being held there, upset. We need them supporting their legal funds. We need them helping with the process of linking them up with attorneys. We need those people to feel support and emotional care, that people care outside. They need to know that individuals here in the Patriot movement are continuing to talk about it, continuing to concern themselves, that they're not forgotten, that they're not alone. There is not individual GoFundMes, Natalie, and let me explain why. You can't actually use GoFundMe to raise money for anyone facing charges. None of these individuals, by the way, are facing insurrection charges at all. No one is facing insurrection charges. The FBI should, but no one is facing those charges. They are trespassing charges, vandalism charges, failure to yield to police officer charges, assaulting a police officer. You know, these are the type of charges, not insurrection, not treason, none of those things. So we need to make sure they're not forgotten. Additionally, we need to make sure that what's happening to them changes. We need to make sure that the conditions that they are in are changed. Because what if we can't get them out quickly? What if Merrick Garland and the Justice Department does not cave and do their duty and let these individuals out as they should be constitutionally to await these trials? What if they don't? They're going to still be there. Okay, well, we need to get DC Detention Center to stop abusing inmates. We need to get them to stop abusing these inmates. We need to make sure that it is made aware that correctional officers are committing violent criminal acts on these individuals, and they need to be removed and addressed. We need to be seeing what's happening in there. These individuals need access to their attorneys. Their attorneys need to start filing charges against the district for what's happening. We need to be addressing the overall policy so that they don't have this cover of vaccination and COVID to put these individuals in these conditions. We need to be hitting this mayor on the human rights violations that she is doing for everyone. There's a big trap. And we talk about this, we call this show Battling Communism. And we need to battle communism in our mind, because some folks have run into this wall where they don't care about others. I've ran into patriots who have said, well, we care about the 500 patriots that are there, but why do I care about criminals who are there? I'm sorry. Why do you care about citizens who are awaiting trial, who have not been convicted of any crime, who are innocent until proven guilty? Why do you care about those people not being tortured? That's right, Lena. Why do you care about those people? Because that's the right thing to do, as Lena says. Because that's the right thing to do. Because that's right. That's a righteous position, to care that we are treating individuals constitutionally. Why do we care? Now, here's the other thing. On the other side, you talk to moderates, you talk to rhinos, you talk to Democrats. They don't care what's happening to those 500 patriots at all. They're literally like, yeah, good. Bad stuff are happening to those insurrectionists. Wow. You guys scare me a little bit with how willing you are to see other people suffering because you disagree with them politically. Rhinos. All right. So rhinos, if you don't care, what they will care about, and what we've managed to frustrate some Democrats locally here, is they do care about Black lives, or at least the appearance of caring about Black lives. They do care about not appearing to be ignorant of human rights violations. And frankly, this is the angle to hit it on. If you want to stop what's going on in the DC jail, and you want to make sure that they are not being tormented while we work on getting them out of there, the best way to do, there's two things that Muriel Bowser will listen to. Two, only two. One, liberal media. The Washington Post writes an article about her. She changes her tune a little bit. Not a lot. It didn't go very far. Congress can actually remove her. Congress can arrest her. Congress can change the policy itself. Congress can come in and replace all of these prison guards with somebody else, with National Guard. Did you know that? The Congress could do that? Congress can do all of these things. So here's what we need to accomplish. We need to accomplish, A, getting the DOJ to operate the charges and the legal process properly. B, we need to get Muriel Bowser to operate her detention facility properly. I don't think Coy is still in, but Joe Biggs is. As are several other patriots. Many other patriots who did nothing more than walk in and walk out, or stand on the grounds, or know somebody who was there. And be an outspoken patriot for our country. So, we have to also understand that these individuals their trials are coming up. So many of these individuals, even the ones who are not yet in custody or who are awaiting trial out of custody, they will end up in this facility at some point in the process. So we need to fix it. We need to fix it. So how we're going to do that is we're going to get to Congress. And we're going to get enough media on the right talking about these egregious human rights violations, her lack of concern at the 85% Black population in that jail that is being literally abused and tortured. Muriel Bowser does not care about Black lives. Do you remember when I said that? That's what I mean. There are 1,500 inmates. And probably that number is different when you count the January 6th inmates. There are approximately 1,500 inmates there. 85% of them are Black. She's got them locked in her cells. She's didn't let them cut their hair for a year. She's giving them Nair to deal with their beard. Waking them up in the middle of the night to go take a shower. This is how Muriel Bowser treats Black lives. She doesn't care. So we need to hit her on that. And I've been talking to Black conservatives across the country, and we'll continue to reach out to Black conservatives because nothing is more powerful than a Black conservative calling out a Black Democrat for egregiously violating concerns over Black people. The 85% of the Black people in that detention center that are Black deserve better treatment. The 15% in that detention center that are not Black deserve better treatment. The 500 patriots that are in that detention center deserve better treatment. We need to make sure we are hitting both of those things. So, what can you do? Help me talk to Congress. Help me lobby Congress on this issue. Help me educate Congress because as who said this just a second ago? Otherwise, I don't think some Congress or senators are very educated. No, they're not. They're not educated as to their role of oversight in the district. They're not educated as to the situation that's going on, and they're certainly not aware they can do anything about it. So you can help me inform them. And here's the problem that we're now seeing. Congress is limiting who can send them emails. They have an email form system by which you can only send them an email if you are in their district. So if you are in a Republican district, okay, if you are in a Republican district, you can email your congressperson via the official website. If you are not in their district, you're going to need to get on some fax numbers. Suzanne, what are you talking about? I'm saying we can fax people. There is a site called freefax.online, I believe. Look up fax congressman. Google search fax Congress or fax Senate. And there is a site which will allow you to freely fax a whole list of congressmen. They have the links all there, all the ones that have fax numbers that are active. You can click on the link. You can type out a little fax. You can share information. These are the pieces of information I want you to share. DC Detention Center. Inmates are being abused. You can direct them to, of course, the Washington Post articles, many of the articles. You can also give them my email personally, SuzanneMonk@gmail.com. Let them know people are being kept in solitary confinement. They are being forced into vaccination. They are being violently assaulted by officers because of their political beliefs. You can use this form to fax many individuals this way. You're going to have to type it in. That's the only problem. It's a little bit harder. You're going to have to type it in. I'm going to make sure that I post the information here on Trump Talk US and on my main page that'll have the links in the text. So you can cut and paste the links that you think are relevant, that you want to send to your congresspeople. But the important things are there are abuses going on in the DC detention center. There are individuals being held for political reasons. There are individuals being forced vaccinated. There are individuals being kept in solitary confinement in abusive human rights violations conditions in the DT Detention Center because of Muriel Bowser's policies and her employees. As a congressperson, as a senator, they have a right and, in fact, a duty to address issues in DC. Please look into what is happening in DC. Ask them to do that. Their job is to have oversight over the district. They need to engage that job. We were asked. It's been a wonderful time with Congressman Kat Comic, I believe. It's her last name. She's a fantastic congresswoman, freshman congresswoman. She was at the Log Cabin Republicans meeting last night, and she was fantastic in addressing and talking with us and really, hearing this issue. But it was something she had never heard of before. No one had told her. So it's important that we educate. Yes, it's important that we educate individuals. And if you have Kamek, thank you, Tracy. If you have been on my page, I've put the documentation in JPEG form so you can share it. Now you can't click the links directly, but they're all in there, and you can certainly look them up and look up the titles. So that is a great way to send the information. I was not able to use the fax through that because it was 3 pages, and they needed me to pay for that. So I got to shorten it down so that we can send it in 3 pages through the fax device. But if you do a little sending yourself, you should be able to use the free fax sites, or just get the fax number using Gmail. Other mail sites do have free fax abilities. So, hey, Pat, how's it going? So that's what you can do. You can also send this to every news site you watch. Send those screenshots, send those JPEGs, send that data, that write-up to every news site, OAN, everyone you talk to, all Hannity, tweet it to them. Any way that you can reach out to individuals who have a blog, a podcast, a news show, a TV channel, anything. Send it. So important. If you are in many of these cities which have, you can send it to your governor. That may be helpful, but particularly if you have Black conservatives in politics. Vernon Jones, I need somebody to get it to Vernon Jones in Georgia. We're already working on getting this information to Mark Keith Robinson, Lieutenant Governor in North Carolina. So we are working at getting this into the hands of patriots who can use this information to hold Muriel Bowser accountable for what she is doing, to hold the Department of Justice accountable for what they are doing to get our patriots freed, and to get these inmates treated fairly, humanely, and to restore what is so critical in America. Thank you, Mary. What is so critical in America, and that is the protection of our basic civil rights. We have a right to a speedy trial, not a trial that takes 10 times longer while we wait in inhumane conditions in jail. We have a right to our attorney, to visit with our attorney, to see our attorney. We have a right to fresh air. We have a right to clip our nails. We have a right to shave our faces. We have a right to basic human hygiene. And Tracy, there's been some grave concern about the foods that they've been feeding them as well. I haven't got as much information on that to share you, but there's certainly concerns about the nutritional value, as well as potentially toxic situations. As you saw what they were feeding our National Guard, things with metal pieces in it. They were finding all kinds of, it was literally nearly inedible. So can you imagine what they're feeding our inmates? So we have reached out to Congressman Kamek. We've reached out to Congress. We're reaching out to Lauren Boebert. We've reached out to Marjorie Taylor Greene. We're reaching out to Burgess Owens. We're reaching out to every single individual in Congress that will listen. I need you to help me get to every single Republican congressperson and make them aware of what's going on. That's what I need from you patriots. And I'm going to be doing as much as I can. But as you know, when we email Congress, when we write Congress, when we call Congress, they take each one of those calls as, say, 1,000 people care. So if 2 people call in a day, they think, oh, all right, well, 2,000 people care. If 10 people call, 10,000. If 100 people call, it's like 100,000 people are upset that this is going on, and it gets on the schedule. And they they say, hey, let me go over to Congressman Comer's office and see what we can do to help. Maybe we can write an additional letter. Maybe we can call her in front of Congress for hearings. Maybe we can put a bill of censure on the floor of the House to censure her for these actions. These are all actions that would put pressure on her and her fellow Democrats to change these policies. So get patriots aware of what's going on. If you see sites that are helping individuals raise funds for their legal defense, I know Joe Biggs has one, several other patriots have one. Please share those. Our patriots are not getting the right kind of access they need, and they're not being really watched over by some of the folks that should. And frankly, if you were Roger Stone or you were General Flynn, you know how much money it can cost to be taken, the government to go after you. And these folks don't have that kind of money, and certainly they don't have the kind of access to fundraise. So help them if you can. Definitely, Missy. Reach out to Mark Robinson. I have some folks reaching out to him directly as well. This is what we need. We need folks who can reach out to Congress. We need folks who have better connections in Congress who can reach out to those people. We need folks who can reach out to the media, who can make a media stink, which is why I love Mark Keith Robinson, because, man, when he talks, he gets fired up. And to have those strong voices, if we can get this to Candace Owens and let her know what's going on, these are the people that need to hear about this. So help me, help our patriots by getting this information out. I appreciate you guys so much. I want to let the folks over here on TECN go. I want to thank you guys for tuning in. We will be back again Tuesday, Eastern Standard Time on TECNTV.com. But please, if you are watching, stay tuned for some of the other programming. There's a lot of great conservative programming that goes on there. And I certainly appreciate all of my other hosts that are on that channel. So great stuff. I want to say goodbye to you all. We'll let that stream close. Thank you all. Yes, Pam, the Hodge twins. We need to get this to Terrence Williams. I'm going to reach out to some folks there. We're just going to keep reaching. I thank you guys. I'm going to be posting these links and these articles again on my page. As I said on my page, there are screenshots, JPEGs of the write-up that you can share. You can use fax. Please fax your Congress people. They are not getting emails effectively, or make phone calls. Make phone calls. The more you do, the more people are going to find out about it, and we're literally going to save lives. We're literally going to save lives, and we're going to save the integrity of the United States, which is a place where you are innocent until proven guilty, and you are afforded a fair and speedy trial and fair treatment under the law while you are detained. That is America. That is not going to be allowed to be violated under my watch. So help me, and I'll help everybody else. We'll help them all together. That's what we should do. It's the right thing to do. It's the right thing to do. So I want to thank you guys. I want to thank you guys in advance. I want to thank you guys for tuning in. Share this video so other people can get this information. And we will be back again on Tuesday, Eastern Standard Time. We'll be popping in with Trump Talks, hopefully drive arounds and such. But definitely stay abreast of my page, and we'll be continuing to give you this information that you need to get out to individuals. Thank you guys so much. And until next time, this is your girl, Suzanne Monk, as always. Trumping out.